I hate the traffic to and from my job.
Okay, yeah.
I hate people on the road because they drive like fucking morons.
Okay, solution already for all of this.
Kill myself?
You took the wind out of my sails there. You know what? I don't even want to share it anymore.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we're going to let that hang. We're going to let that dead air hang.
It is the Super Clash podcast, a podcast about shorter games. It is episode 71. I'm your host, Kale, and you're not Connor.
No, I'm the bamboozler.
Connor has a beard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Chad Connor's dead. Weak little virgin Connor's here.
Oh my god. It totally threw me for a loop when you entered the door. Was not expecting it at all.
It's my shitty twin.
Well, maybe you're the shitty twin. You can actually talk about games.
No, that's too much optimism you're putting in there.
So where is Chad Connor then?
Dead. Yep, just brought behind the house and put a bullet between his eyes. He's gone. It's all right. He'll come back someday. He always comes back.
Yeah. Give it a couple weeks.
Yeah.
How was your week, Connor?
Oh, very stressful. And to be quite honest, I think the seasonal depression's kicking in.
Yeah, like, I am enjoying the weather out there right now. It's not, like, stupid hot.
Yeah, it's only smart hot.
I fucking hate you. The fact that it's getting darker at 5 o'clock is when it really sucks.
That and it being cold overnight, too. And you wake up in the morning and it's kind of cold and sad.
My week was okay. Really had nothing big except today. Today was the day they opened up orders again, which is really stupid because the salespeople have been wanting to place orders for their accounts all week, but they haven't been able to. But they decided to open up on a Friday before the weekend. That's already a bad enough combination after a full week of it being down. It's just one of those things that kind of bothers me, that the higher-ups who have never stepped foot in a warehouse make these decisions.
Also, from a logical standpoint, I feel like on the opposite side of the sales rep, you have customers who are being pestered on a Friday and probably don't want to deal with shit on a Friday.
Right.
You know, I can't imagine it's a good business day, but maybe it is.
Who knows? I'm just glad it's the weekend, but it's just been kind of an up and down week for the most part.
Yeah, I think we need to really get into the spooky season a little more.
Yeah. I watch more horror movies, play more horror games, and just get in the mood, man.
It's really hard because last night I was perusing Netflix and Shudder trying to find a horror movie. And I think the thing that really sucks is when you find like a really, really good horror movie and you try to find another horror movie after that, it's really hard to find something that lives up to those standards or expectations.
Yeah.
And the thing with horror as a genre in general is you have so many subgenres in horror. So I could go out on Twitter or even just amongst my friends and be like, hey, you know, what horror movies do you recommend? And I could get 100 recommendations that are just not the subgenres that I like. Like, for example, I don't really like slasher films or what I call like murder porn films. Like, I'm just not.
It depends on the slasher for me. Like, the movie that we saw last week, I would consider that somewhat of a slasher, but that was a fun movie.
Yeah, that one's a little different. I think it was meant to be comedic as well. Like, comedic slashers are all right.
I like horror comedy.
Yeah, I do too. When I'm in the mood for it. I have to be in a specific mood.
It's like I like the Child's Play movies a lot, like the OG Chucky movies that are written and not really directed, but any Chucky movie that the creator Don Mancini is involved in, I'm all for because I think those movies are just fun.
I've been looking for a movie that's kind of a slow burn with some world building. Like, the one that keeps coming to my mind is Train to Busan. I just love that movie. It doesn't immediately go balls to the wall. It's a slow build, and you feel really connected to the characters in it. And I've been trying to find something that scratches that same itch, but there's just nothing. I'd take a supernatural. I'd take a zombie. I'd take a monster movie. I just can't seem to find something that's good. And on Shudder, there's a review system where you can get 1 through 5 skulls on a movie, and then you could provide a review. And every single movie I look at, without fail, there are people who are like, this movie was absolute trash, here's why. They'll write a novel. And then in that same thread, you'll have people saying, this movie was a masterpiece, here's why, and a giant novel about it. And it's like, I don't know what to believe, you know? I'm just like, is this a trash movie or is this really good? I don't know. It's so hard to find good movies. I have analysis paralysis for horror movies.
Well, speaking of horror movies, since we're talking about it, Connor, what did you think of the Banana Splits film? Since I kind of hinted at it earlier.
La 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 la. Well, it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think the concept of that movie was more interesting than the movie itself, though.
Yeah, I probably liked it a little bit more than you did. I kind of had a fun time with it. Because I thought the setup was done well enough. It's obviously these animatronics have like corrupted AI. It was never given a reason why the creator did this. Like, it had something to do with like
the show must go on.
Yeah,
protocol.
It had maybe something like an error in the programming or something.
I think if it would have been a little bit better if they had a scene to establish the creator of these animatronics putting in this failsafe, and then maybe like warning the executives, it's not really working or something, and they're like, just all right, put it in anyway, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Some sort of like hint at it, but it just suddenly was just like they have one of the animatronics back there for maintenance, and then it flashes on its little readout, the show must go on, and then suddenly starts attacking people, basically.
Yeah, so like the whole reason was a little bit like vague, and especially with one of the characters of the Banana Splits, it's not really a spoiler, it basically turns good.
Snorky.
Yeah, Snorky. And it was never really established why, if it was because, spoilers, the kid danced for him and all of a sudden that made him good, or it's like it was never, or maybe he didn't go through the programming like the others did. It was never really established.
And it didn't seem like any of them particularly wanted to kill the kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like they went out of their way not to kill the kids. However, I think by forcing the kids to watch them perform over and over again, the kids would eventually die. So
yeah,
that was the concern.
Mm-hmm. But overall, like, I thought it was a fun enough movie. I thought the kills were I was not expecting it to be that gory.
Oh, it was gruesome.
Because the only other animatronic movie that came to mind was Willy's Wonderland, and there was some decent gore in that when it came to the humans, but most of the gore in Willy's Wonderland was from the animatronics.
Yeah.
And if I had to compare the two, I probably like Willy's Wonderland a little bit more.
I would agree.
Because at the very least, they explained how the animatronics were able to move and why they're evils, because it was a cult of serial killers. They transferred their souls into these, and they need to be they need to be fed in order to be satisfied. And I thought that's a good enough setup.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't completely discount the Banana Splits movie.
It was an all right film, and honestly, I think we got it. Like, I bought it on Blu-ray for like $10, so it wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I mentioned that the premise of the movie was much more interesting than the movie itself, and the premise is like these beloved Hanna-Barbera characters are now murdering people in horrible, gruesome ways. And these are like real Hanna-Barbera characters. There was a Banana Split show back in the day. And the fact that someone at Warner Brothers was approached and was like, hey, you know those characters we have, these Hanna-Barbera characters, the Banana Splits? And they're like, yeah, you wanting to revive that for a kid's show? No. Hear me out. They murder people. And some executive was like, all right, yeah, sure. You know, I was just okay with it because, going forward now, they cannot use them as a children's character anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have permanently made them, horror characters. Because if a child, if they decided to make it a kid's show again, imagine a child looking up the Banana Splits movie and then being absolutely horrified and how angry the parents would get.
Yeah.
Like...
But I thought it was a decent movie. It's perfect for the it's perfect for the spooky season.
Yeah, if you want like a dumb, funny slasher, it's perfect.
Yeah, get high, watch it, it'd be great. But on a lighter note, I have began reading the 4th volume of The Dangers in My Heart manga.
Okay.
So I'm getting ready for the anime coming out. I think January of next year. I need to know the exact date, but I know it's some point next year, and I'm just really excited for it. The story is getting super sweet. The two main at least the main character is starting to realize his feelings for the main girl, whereas it was kind of established pretty early on in the manga that the main girl kind of had feelings for him.
Yeah.
And so they're getting more bold with each other, and it's just really super sweet, especially around Christmas time, which is always like a really common trope in these romantic not really romantic comedy, but these romantic slice of life mangas. So really excited, and what I'm really excited about as well is I finally got Komi Can't Communicate Volume 7. After so long searching for this, I have it. Ugh.
It always sucks when there's one volume in a series that you cannot find.
Mm-hmm. And now it's impossible to find 8 and 9, so...
You got to think, like, how does that happen? You would assume when they're printing these books that they're printing, like, an equal number of each volume. So 10 of Volume 1, 10 of Volume 2, et cetera, on and on. Are there just more people buying Volume 7 than all the other volumes?
It's possible, and it's also just our local Barnes & Noble probably only orders, like, 5. Because when I checked this morning on Barnes & Noble, it said it was in stock. And by the time I was there to pick it up, I just was curious and went over to the manga section just to see by chance if they have 8 and 9. 7 was gone. It was gone same day.
Jeez.
And it was probably gone within the hour it opened. And I'm so glad I snagged a copy by doing pickup in store.
It's... Our Barnes & Noble has its flaws. And I think the biggest flaw is they will have... like the first 1 or 2 volumes of a manga, and they will have like 100 copies of it. I'm being slightly hyperbolic, but literally there's like 2 or 3 stacks of like the first volumes, and then none of the later volumes.
For Komi specifically, they have like 8 copies of Volume 19.
Yeah, they'll get a bunch of the most recent ones too. 'Cause that's the most recent one, I'm pretty sure. But still, like. Everything in between, though, is impossible to find.
Yeah, and so but I'm just so glad I have it. Tonight, as you could tell by the title, we'll be talking about The Order 1886. But before we get into that, Connor, let's get physical.
Alrighty. We have a handful this evening. A couple of them slipped in at the last second, so I added those. The first is Kamiwaza, Way of the Thief. This is $40 on PS4 and Switch. It says, on the streets of Mikado, Only the tough survive. For one man, a heist gone wrong would change his life forever. Set during the Edo period of Japan, Kamiwaza stars amateur thief Ebizo, who aspires to steal from the rich and give to the poor. During his first stint, however, he and his mentor, Inosuke, witness their own men take the lives of innocent civilians. Disillusioned by the horrific display of violence, Inosuke advises Ebizo to escape with the only survivor, a lone girl. A decade later, Ebizo has held fast to his morals, living an honest and fulfilling life with Suzuna, the young girl he took in as his own daughter. But the illusion of security is shattered once Suzuna falls ill. In order to buy the medicine she desperately needs, Ebizo is faced with a heavy financial burden. Conflicted, Ebizo is forced to return to the underbelly of Mikado, but vows only to steal for the sake of those less fortunate. Will you walk the path of honor, even as a thief? The choice is yours to make. Yeah, and this releases October 11th.
Interesting.
So the next one is one of the ones that snuck in. It's called The Tourist. It's approximately $39, only on Switch, and is a super rare exclusive. It's limited to 3,000 units. Discover exotic islands and explore ancient monuments in this relaxing action-adventure exploration game. Enjoy an adventure as varied as life itself, from climbing into deep mines and uncovering secret passages to surfing and dancing at a beach party. Monument Island has it all. Live the tourist life of your dreams. A steelbook version is also available for approximately $53, and pre-orders start October 13th. The next one is Fast RMX. This one is approximately $39 as well, only on Switch, super rare exclusive, and limited to 3,000 units. The fastest racing game you may have ever experienced. Jump into the driver's seat of your very own anti-gravity vehicle and put your skills to the test in high-octane competitions. With 36 exciting tracks to discover, challenge your friends to local split-screen races or take part in online races against players from all over the world. The Steelbook version is also available for approximately $53, and pre-orders start October 13th.
Nice.
Then we have a couple more here. The next one is Psychonauts 2. It is $70. It's on PS4, Xbox One, and Series X. Rasputin Raz Aquato, trained acrobat and powerful young psychic, has realized his lifelong dream of joining the international psychic espionage organization known as the Psychonauts. But these psychic super spies are in trouble. Combining quirky missions and mysterious conspiracies, Psychonauts 2 is a platform adventure game with cinematic style and tons of customizable psychic powers. A long-awaited sequel to a cult classic, this edition is every fan's dream come true. Includes lenticular sleeve, reversible cover, 6 art cards, 6 vinyl stickers, and a digital soundtrack.
Interesting.
Releases October 14th.
I've heard really good things about the first Psychonauts. The only exposure I had to that was it was like an X-Play review on G4 many years ago when G4 did games. But I'd never played it. So, but and for if memory serves right, I thought it was an Xbox exclusive. At least the first one was.
Maybe, but I think it was later ported to PlayStation because I'm pretty sure I have a PS4 copy of it, the first one. But
I'm excited for this. I've been wanting to play this.
Well, you're going to be really excited about the next one, knowing your love of Souls games. The next one is called Eldest Souls.
What is it?
Eldest Souls.
Eldest Soul? Souls, gotcha.
It is $35 on PS4, PS5, and Switch. It's a limited run games exclusive. Eldest Souls now includes Depths of the Forgotten, a free major expansion which introduces a new and perilous region, 3 new bosses, a selection of special weapons, a weapon customization system, and all new obliterating ability. Following centuries of servitude, man finally rebelled against the old gods, imprisoning these colossal calamities within the sacred walls of the citadel. But an evil stirred within. In a final act of vengeance, the old gods have unleashed a great desolation upon the world. Mankind is fading, and with but a glimmer of hope remaining, heavy is the burden that lies on the lone warrior, armed with a great sword of the purest obsidian. Pre-orders end October 16th.
Nice. I had to check this one out.
Yeah, it seems like an interesting, like Souls-like type of game.
Yeah, definitely. So, let's start tonight with our topic. The Order 1886 is a game that developed by Ready at Dawn and released in 2016. You can generally beat this game in about 5 to 7 hours, and it's a PlayStation exclusive. The story is set in an 1886 alternate history steampunk London. The game follows the legendary Knights of the Round Table as they battle to keep the world safe from half-breeds, as well as fringe organizations rebelling against the government. So, we're going to do things a little bit different here on the show just because Connor and I have a lot of thoughts on this game, a lot of good things about this game as well. So, what I'm going to do, just to kind of switch it up, I'm going to just give you a brief rundown of like the gameplay of the game, and then we'll start discussing the history of the development of this game and our thoughts on this game as well. So, The Order 1886 is a third-person cover-based shooter where you mostly fight rebels who are. The story for one is hard to follow, but the main enemies that you fight are rebels and half-breeds, which are basically Lycans. It has a lot of really cool weapons that's made by Nikola Tesla, and alongside the cover-based shooting mechanics, there's a lot of quick-time events.
Yeah.
And this was around the time where I think quick-time events were kind of a big thing. This game, oh man, I remember this game announced. I think it was announced around the time they revealed the PS4.
Yeah, and I think it was a good one to show because, and we'll get into this, but it was a gorgeous game.
This game was a powerhouse. This game was, I think, a testament to just how powerful the PS4 was.
Yeah.
And it's so sad that no game, even The Last of Us 2, never really utilized the power of the PS4. And like Uncharted 4, even though that game does look good, it doesn't look nearly as good as this game, even today.
Yeah.
And it makes me so sad. So this game began development in 2010 and was announced in 2013 with a release date of February the following year, which, okay, I got the date wrong. It was 2014, not 2016. Which this was a genius move, by the way, to show gameplay of this game and say, oh yeah, it's releasing of February the following year. And especially since this game was, I think it was during E3 when this game was announced. And that's a very small window to wait. And Bethesda does this all the time when they reveal gameplay of like Fallout or their games. Like, yeah, it'll be released November of this year. So, really great way to build up the hype.
Yeah, definitely.
However, there was a lot of discourse with this game when playthroughs revealed that this game was $60 and only about 5 hours. Which, at the time, it is very hard to convince me to pay $60 for a 5-hour game. But the developers defended it by saying, in reality, if you were to go through this game at a normal pace, it would take about 7 to 10 hours, which is about right. I got through this game in about 7 hours.
Okay.
I think this game got better with age, because I looked up the price. It's $20 now. You can wholeheartedly justify a 7-hour game for $20.
Definitely.
And this game, something I forgot to mention in gameplay, the aesthetic of this game is absolutely gorgeous. Like, it's like 1800s London with like this gothic aesthetic. It's beautiful.
Beautifully grimy and ugly in a way that, like, like I don't know, what do you want to call it? Pre-modern era.
It's
London would look like,
It's the industrialization.
Yes.
Age.
Yes. It's during the time of like Jack the Ripper, and I think right around that time, Bram Stoker's Dracula was written as well.
Yeah, and and the grimy streets of London, and just how it's designed, it contrasts beautifully with just how clean the palace is, where all the knights gather to like make decisions and discuss everything going on, as well as like the facial animations are gorgeous. They're not overly exaggerated. Like for some reason, even today, when game studios make facial animations, they have to overly express the mouth and eyebrow movements and everything. This was just at that right amount to where it's expressive enough to show off the facial animations, but it's not overly exaggerated to where it's funny.
I think, I was really honing in on the facial animation and the details. I will say it is ever so slightly showing its age, because I think there are some characters whose faces aren't as detailed as maybe your main character is,
Yeah.
But I think the mouth movements are pretty good in sync, and the hair textures for the time are really, really good. Like, there are very few games on the PS4 that got even close to that level of detail, of character design, of hair movement, of environment design, of the lights and the shadows and the reflections and the cobblestone.
Yeah.
Like, very few games on the PS4 era matched that quality.
And it's so sad that it didn't perform as well as Sony wanted, because the way the game ended, they really set up for a sequel. And I was hoping for the whole lifespan of the PS4 that they would greenlight a sequel, because the world building in this game is incredible. I want to learn more about this world. The characters are all like super likable and well voice acted. The sound design is excellent. You mentioned the cobblestone, like running on the cobblestone and walking on the cobblestone, having that cobblestone sounds really good. The guns all sound like super powerful and everything. There's a lot of things that this game does right that I think was just overshadowed by the length.
That's true. And I think about how many good werewolf games there are, right? Like, how there aren't really that many at all. Like, this is probably the best werewolf game that is out there. So if you are into werewolves, lycans, they call them half-breeds in this, like, if you're into that, like, this game has that. And it's creepy when it needs to be. There's action when there needs to be. And there's a good storytelling when there needs to be.
Yeah, I would, as I mentioned before, like, the story was kind of hard for me to follow. Like, even though the world building is good, they didn't fully explain everything going on within the story. Like, I have no idea what the rebels' motivations were. Really, like, it wasn't really clear.
It seemed like they viewed the monarchy and the knights and the police and stuff as oppressive, and they were more standing up against that oppressive regime, basically.
But where does the half-breeds play into that?
I think the half-breeds, at least from my perspective, maybe found kinship with these rebels, also being outcasted in a way, being hunted constantly by the knights, the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of situation. I think that's maybe where they came in.
Yeah, I guess it was just kind of a hard story for me to follow. I think a second playthrough would kind of explain that stuff a little bit better to me. And maybe some of the documents that you read, like newspapers, would probably help with that world building. The problem with that, though, is that you can pick them up and you have to read it like on the paper or in cursive. There's no button that like brings up a screen that has the writing clearly written like later games do. And so I got bored of trying to make out the cursive with it. I don't have an issue with reading cursive in particular. It's just like this particular cursive was fairly difficult to read.
Yeah.
Um,
You know, what I found interesting was that the characters, both the rebels and the knights, no one's really fully good or bad.
no.
There's a shades of gray in this, you know? So the knights are supposed to be this force of good, but you know, they report up to a higher authority, right? And they have to do what they're told, even though they sometimes break those rules, as one of the plot points in that game is. And whereas you have these rebels who they maybe have a point to being upset or feeling repressed or, you know, wanting to change things, but then some of the dialogue that you'll hear them say is like they plan on like just killing people and stuff like that. So
You kill a lot of people in this.
oh yeah.
Like, you probably kill half of London.
What I think is really funny though, in the beginning of the game, they're like, you know, we have non-lethal ways of taking people down. Let's do that first. But then immediately just goes into like murdering people.
Yeah.
I thought there was going to be like actual ways for you to like capture like people and, you know, like injure them or like stun them and then capture them. But there just was no mechanic for
No,
that.
there's not. I'm gonna move on from your mechanic there. I did mention that there are a lot of QuickTime events in this, and that was another major criticism of this game, where this game had a lot of QuickTime events. Like, this whole game is played out almost like a cinematic, and I think that was their intention, is for this to play out like a movie, which explains why there's a lot of QuickTime events. Like when you observe your weapon, like you pick up your weapon and you can observe it by moving the thumbsticks, and you'll turn the weapon. You turn at a certain angle, and then you like press triangle to load around the chamber. I think that's their intention, and I would have to say that's probably one of the very few things that didn't age well with this game. I think after a while, these QuickTime events, aside from one, it gets grating after a while.
And even the general combat against the half-breeds is partially QTE based too. Like, so one of your first encounters, you have these lichens in this dark room, and they will charge at you. And shooting them doesn't really do anything. You have to roll out of the way by pressing X at the right time, and then you can shoot them once you've dodged them. And I thought it was kind of a lame mechanic in a way. I thought they could have handled that a little bit cooler.
Well, and the boss battle of the lichens isn't that great either, where you have to flick the right thumbstick at a certain direction and then strike them. It's for a game where you're fighting a boss werewolf. It's very slow paced.
Yeah, and even the general combat where you're just shooting enemies, I found those to be kind of a slog.
Really?
Yeah, when I was going through, and sometimes you'll get a partner, right? An AI partner who goes with you on some of these missions. And you're shooting these rebels, or it's lichens, or it's whatever, right? Whatever your enemy is in that particular area. And the AI on your side is absolutely brain dead. I don't think I saw my AI companion take down a single thing. In fact, I sat there when there was one enemy left one time, and I just kind of waited to see what he would do, and he would just shoot around the enemy. He wouldn't actually shoot him.
Interesting.
And I'm like, that's not great. Listen, I don't want the game to play itself for me and kill all the enemies, but the expectation is that maybe the AI will take out one here and there, maybe help you out a little bit, and I just wasn't getting that from this.
Yeah. I did forget to mention, since we were talking about QuickTime events, the one QuickTime event I felt like is good and I think would be fine in a sequel is when you're sneaking up on somebody, you have to press triangle at the right time to have a clean kill.
Yeah.
I think that actually ages really well and is actually a really interesting mechanic, because if you're trying to be sneaky, there is a punishment for botching it.
Yes.
And I think it would work really well if they were able to, if there's a sequel, to kind of refine the stealth system in this game. This game doesn't really have a stealth system, but there are stealth sections in this game that I feel like really bring this game down because they're insta-fail.
Yeah. There's so two things I want to address based on what you said. The first is I do like the takedowns because they're not the exact same takedown every single time.
Mm-hmm.
It's at least a little varied. But to your point of you wish that if they made a sequel that they would put more stealth mechanics, I completely agree. Because there's times where they put you in a situation where there are like enemies that you can see in the distance that are talking and interacting with one another, and you're far away, but you have no silenced weapons, and the moment you pop your head out, they're alerted to you. So your only approach on some of these fights is to just, all right, I'm going in blasting, pop, 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 it I don't know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And even then, the stealth sections that you have to do, you can't go in blasting because, again, insta-fail.
Yeah, I think it would be better if they had more situations where you could approach it from multiple ways,
I've heard something really poignant about stealth in another podcast where a stealth section or a stealth game is only as much fun as it is... I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. How much fun a stealth game is based on how much fun it is to get caught.
Okay.
To where, like, is the game just as fun when you get caught as it is being successfully stealthy? Like, you look at Metal Gear Solid 5, the stealth in that game is really fun, but also getting caught is fun, too.
Because then you start this all-out war, basically.
Exactly.
You can say the same thing with Sniper Elite as well.
Yeah,
those games.
and Hitman as well. So, and these three, like, mostly stealth games are still fun if you get caught. And I think the Order could benefit from that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is so annoying to just step just barely into the vision of an enemy. He pulls his gun and shoots you in the head. Game over.
Yeah.
And thank God for the PlayStation 5's SSD drive, because it would just boot right back up immediately.
Yeah. I realize now that I mentioned that I thought the combat sequences were a slog, but I didn't really elaborate on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say the reason I say that is there are a few scenes where they probably throw in a very throwaway scene, mind you, they'll throw 50 enemies at you, so you're just stacking bodies, right?
Especially near the end.
And I thought that was just, it's weird. How many rebels are there? How many enemies are there in this game? And I can say that criticism about a lot of games where I feel like the pile of bodies you've accumulated by the end of the game is just so massive and unrealistic. But I felt that way with this one, and that's why I felt like the battles were a slog. Cut the enemies in half, you get the same thing out of it,
Yeah, I would slightly disagree with you. I didn't really notice that. I liked the shooting mechanics. I liked going from cover to cover and shooting these enemies with these really creative guns. So that really didn't bother me as much.
I think they wouldn't bother me. Why I mentioned earlier that the AI seemed brain dead and wasn't killing anything is I think these sequences would go a lot better if you could not only have your AI teammate take some of the kills for you, but if you could maybe give them orders. You know?
I think
cover me or do this thing, because it felt like my teammates were just off fucking around doing whatever, and I'm over here trying to reload or try to find some more ammo while I'm getting shot at, and he's just wanking it in a corner or something. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah. And for a sequel, it doesn't even need to be very deep, like mechanics to give orders. It can be as simple as like Mass Effect. It's like go to this cover, target this enemy. Just
even as simple, honestly, as cover me,
mm-hmm.
or draw their fire, suppressive fire, anything like that would be great.
Mm-hmm. But overall, like, I really think this game just got a bad rap.
It got a very unfair level of criticism, and I think 99% of that criticism stemmed around the length.
And maybe even lack of multiplayer too, which...
Not every game needs
No,
multiplayer.
I don't get it.
People whined and complained about the Mass Effect, the Last of Us remake not getting multiplayer, and I'm like, who was playing The Last of Us for the multiplayer?
Right. Even though I heard people say the multiplayer for Last of Us was pretty good.
I mean, it was fine, but I don't see why you would play that for the multiplayer. I just don't. It's like it's like if McDonald's suddenly decided to release like like a gourmet $20 burger. And they're like, "Yep, we got a $20 burger. It's gourmet. It's made with like the freshest ingredients." Who the fuck is going to McDonald's for a gourmet burger?
Right.
Who's going in there to spend $20 on a burger? Yeah, it's fine that it exists. It might be a good burger, but why is it even there? You
go to McDonald's when you're high as fuck and just want food.
Yeah, man. You need munchies in your tum-tum. But
exactly.
Yeah.
But like the optimist in me hopes that at the very least they can reboot this game, because allegedly Sony renewed the rights for this game. Mm-hmm. Now that could be something as simple as they want to keep holding on to their rights to it, but this is not Ready at Dawn's only game. They've made other games since. And one of them is a VR game that just left me. But I want them to come back to this game, and I want to see what an updated engine on the PS5 would look for this game.
I think it would look gorgeous.
It would probably be the best looking PS5 game ever.
And I remember you saying, when you first started playing the game again, you mentioned that you thought it looked a little blurry.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I played it, I saw that as an intentional choice. Kind of like how Dying Light has like a film grain over it. I think there's a little layer of grit and blur to it intentionally to make it more like period piece.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you mention having a PS5 remaster or a remake or a reboot of the series, because genuinely, I think the best way to flesh out this world and possibly get more people interested in this game is if they decided to give it the HBO Last of Us show treatment. Make a show in this universe.
I would watch. Like, yeah, absolutely.
We don't have any horror werewolf shows
with this kind of cool aesthetic.
Yeah, it's very unique. It's like you combined like late 1800s with knights, but with like steampunk weapons, and Nikola Tesla is making these crazy weapons, and it's just so cool. Like, there's so much.
It's an amazing concept. And it's so funny you mentioned a show, because for a second I did get excited because there's a show on Netflix just called The Order.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just basically a CE show. Uh-oh.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. What'd you do?
I was going to bring something up for the future here, but it started playing a video. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go on.
But I think it's mostly a CE show that just got on is that what it is? The CW?
Is that what you're talking
CW,
about?
yeah, CW.
My gosh, I am trying so hard to open the YouTube app to bring something up for later, and it's just like, we're gonna play a YouTube short for you every single time.
My God, but as I was trying to say before your phone rudely interrupted us,
I know, you can kill it.
it just looks like a CW show, and the CW, like, even though they I'm pretty sure they still have Whose Line Is It Anyway, they just pump out these shows that just don't look interesting to me.
Yeah, they're pretty cringe. I think if we did get a Order 1886 show, it needs to be made by a bigger studio. Either I would like to see Netflix dump some money into it because they did a good job with The Witcher show. Or HBO. They're known for putting good money into things. I have high hopes, honestly, for the Last of Us show. I don't know how I feel about the casting choice yet. I don't necessarily know if the Pedro Pascal is going to be a good Joel or if the girl they chose is going to be a good Ellie. They don't really seem like those characters to me, but I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong.
I was on board for Pedro Pascal as Joel. So
what do you think about Ellie's actress?
That was a bit harder sell for me personally.
She doesn't have the look or really the voice.
But
she maybe just has the demeanor.
And I think that's the important part is the Ellie demeanor. So like cuz I can get by with the voice, and I understand look would help as well. But what's really important is Ellie who is whipping out profanities like crazy, and that is what matters.
Yeah, and have you seen Game of Thrones?
No, I honestly, Game of Thrones really never really interested me.
So that actress, she's from Game of Thrones, and she played a very similar character in Game of Thrones, where she was a lady of a castle, basically, but she was a child, but she was very like, let's do this, let's go to war, blah blah blah, a little like badass, basically. And so I think that's why I mentioned, like, I think her demeanor fits, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
but we're off track on that.
Yeah, we're way off track. We basically said all we wanted to say about the order, other than like our score. So before you kind of do what you need to do on your phone, Connor, what would you give this game?
I think when I very first played through it years ago, I'd have given it an 8. I think now it has aged in some ways well, in some ways poorly, so I'd give it more like a 7.
I would give it like an 8.5. I enjoyed this game when it came out, but playing it now, I think I liked it a lot more. So
Really?
I would give it an 8.5, definitely. I would say, especially with the price that it is, even though I'd probably recommend people go into like a GameStop to try and find it, because it's probably still expensive on the PlayStation Store digitally.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth $20. It is a good weekend game.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So like the characters are likable, it looks great, the guns are loud, they have stopping power. There's a lot of good writing on this game, and it just makes me so sad that a sequel was never really greenlit. Especially like, I don't know, man. Sony's doing this really weird thing when it comes to their original IPs, where like they're remaking Horizon, the first Horizon game. That makes no sense.
That's dumb as shit.
But you have these original IPs like Days Gone and The Order 1886 that Sony will never greenlight a sequel for.
Or, they won't. They're wanting to remake games that are only a generation old. One single generation old. You know what games need more love? Resistance.
Yeah.
Hell, we haven't had a new Killzone since the beginning of the PS4 generation.
And yeah, and maybe another Little Big Planet.
Yeah, I mean, we had that Sackboy game that released on the launch of PS5.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think there's definitely some other franchises that PS has under their wing that need a either reboot or a sequel. I kept hearing all these comments from people like, why are they doing Horizon? They should do Bloodborne and remake Bloodborne. I'm like, no, you're missing the point. These games aren't that old. They're fine.
If even though I would love that for Bloodborne, at the very least, I would like for them to do a 60 FPS upgrade.
That's fine
for Bloodborne, or maybe even upscale.
Yes,
game.
that's fine. I just don't think they justify a full remake this soon. It made sense with Demon Souls.
Yeah, because that
was
game
a
came
PS3
out in
game.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it's almost like a role reversal, because Xbox for the longest time had this issue where they were just milking these very few franchises of Halo, Gears of War, and Forza.
They still are, but
They still are, but with their acquisition of Activision and Blizzard, Activision and Bethesda, they have all these opportunities to make Xbox exclusive franchises, and I have a sliver of hope that at least kick Sony in the ass to kind of pump out these more neglected IPs.
yeah,
Because you can only go so far with Last of Us and Horizon. I understand that those two games are probably the more high-grossing games to the PlayStation, but people are going to get burned out on them.
yeah. You're going to take a beloved franchise and you're going to turn it into something that nobody wants to see anything from for another 5-10 years.
And they're already doing that with The Last of Us. The Last of Us, I'm starting to get burned out with The Last of Us, even though I love that game. I mean, you have the show coming out. You have The Last of Us remake for PS5. You have The Last of Us 2 with the PS5 upgrade.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Last of Us and a lot of Horizon, and I'm getting burned out on it.
Yeah.
It's too much of a good thing.
Yes. I think they need to chill on God of War after Ragnarok. Chill on that for a while. Chill on Horizon for a while. Chill on Last of Us. And go look at your backlog of stuff that you have. Or hell, even create a new IP if you really want. But look back and say, hey, these were some beloved franchises. We haven't touched them in probably 1 to 2 generations, maybe even 3 for some of them. There's some PS2 games that I don't think have gotten anything past. So it's like, give them a shot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You're probably going to get more goodwill out of people for long-awaited sequels or reboots than remaking the same shit. That's just going to piss people off and make a very select amount happy.
Mm-hmm. Because even though I love my PS5, I absolutely love my PS5, right now Xbox is selling me on some of their planned games coming out.
You can get a Series S for $250 now and a
Yeah.
free controller at
Mm-hmm.
Target.
Even though I would probably want a Series X, but they're selling me right now. And even though I have my preferred consoles, if a console sells me better, I will flip-flop. That's just who I am. So
Makes sense.
go ahead, Connor. What was it you wanted to look up?
Oh, I just wanted to give... I wanted to bring up something so I could shout it out, and I wasn't, like, searching for it at the end. I did some voice acting.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I wanted to give a shout-out to Hell Yeah Gaming. They reached out to me and had me do some voice acting for their video, Let's Make a Fighting Game. I was on the episode 4 of that, and I voiced the cowboy. So go to Hell Yeah Gaming's channel. We'll probably link that in the description, and give them a watch and a like, and I just wanted to shout that out. I didn't want to forget, so I was trying to bring it up, and then YouTube was being derpy, so you know.
Yeah, you have to show me after we're ever done recording. I want to hear the finished product.
For sure.
But that'll just about do it for us, guys. Like and subscribe if you like the show, or if you don't like it, you can always tell your friends. I'm pretty sure they'll like it. I mean, they're probably better than you anyway. No, that was really mean.
Wow.
That was really mean-spirited. I am just kidding, you guys. I love every single one of you guys that take the time to listen to us. We're so grateful. We're so grateful for any of the listens that you guys do, both on the podcast platforms and on the YouTube. Whether the video gets five listens or 5 million listens, we're always super grateful for it. But we also have a merch store, guys, which will be linked in the description, and that'll pretty much do it for us. Next week, to continue the spooky season, we're playing the game Made of Skyr or Skier. I'm not sure how you say it.
I don't know. Words.
But either way, it's gonna be a fun time. I'm excited to play this game.
Don't get too scared and cry.
Oh, we'll find out.
Okay.
Will I cry next week? Who knows?
I'll tell you if he did.
All right, thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.